Welcome back to episode 19 of the Leeds Rhinos podcast. It's a Monday, which means it's match review. I'm delighted to be joined by our assistant coach, James McDonnell. Gets the hat-trick ball, first man 3 times on the Leeds Rhinos podcast. Delighted to have you back on, Langers. My name is Phil Daly. I'm the head of media and PR here at Leeds Rhinos. We're going to look back on Thursday's win over at Salford, a hard-earned 28-0 win against the Red Devils, and then look ahead to the Good Friday clash with Huddersfield Giants here at AMT Headingley. What should be another tantalising game ahead. Langers, you had the review of Thursday's game with the lads. What's the overall impression?
Yeah, so we played on Thursday, give us 3 days off post-game, so plenty of time to reflect on it. The initial thoughts after the game were there was some frustration there, and I think it's always tough going into those games. Salford are in the situation they're in, and there's always a lot of expectation of what you should be doing. And they'd been beat soundly by Hull KR previously by 50 points, things like that. And you can never go into a game with too high expectations. I think it's always causes a bit of frustration if it doesn't quite go your way. And I felt like Salford did really well first 40 minutes. Like, we had a lot of possession on their line. And the way they defended, they got really high on edges. They spooked quite a lot. So by that I mean, like their third in defender, second in defender, got really high early and in our eye line of our halfbacks. So sometimes it can put you in two minds a little bit in terms of your decision making. So it forced us to play a bit more direct and through rather than obviously play with width. And we had to shorten our passes up and adapt. And we knew they'd do that to a certain extent, but probably not as much as they did. And they scrambled really hard as well. Like, there were 2 or 3 occasions where, we've been direct, we've played Leeds, tried to go through them, and they've come up with essentially a try-saving tackle on the back of it. So there were a little bit of frustration that first half, and that kind of bled into the second half and the game. And I think, as you say, with the expectations and Salford, the predicament they're in, everybody thinks you're going to go there. And I mean this with all due respect, but, put a bit of a score on them. It's never the case. Like, it's always tough. And I think if you'd have said before a ball were kicked at the start of the season, not knowing what you knew about Salford, if you were going to go to Salford and come away with 28-0 victory and 2 points, you'd have taken that, wouldn't you? Obviously. So having probably sat back and reflected on it, some of the areas we felt like probably lacked a bit of fluidity with the ball, certainly down on their line. I think we had 55 tackles inside their 20, it's a lot. We had a lot of field position, didn't quite execute. But the small fixes, just a tweak here, tweak there with the shape. Defensively, I think we've been really consistent. We're doing a pretty good job there in terms of restricting teams' meters. We're right up there, as the best team in the comp in terms of restricting meters, our up control. So that's enabling us to earn good field position with the ball. It's just a couple of little tweaks here and there with the ball. But as I say, to come away with 28 points, Sammy nearly goes over on one. Cooper nearly goes over on one. Harry gets the double movement. We get the forward pass at the end. It could have easily crept up a little bit. So I think with the ball, a few small tweaks here and there defensively to keep them to 0. Listen, we defended 20 minutes of that game, so a quarter of the game essentially with 12 men. And we've looked at the fixes this morning with our tackle height and what we can do to control that with our bigger fellas. But to scramble and to work hard for 20 minutes with 12 men and not concede, and we conceded 0 line breaks as well. So it just shows that the effort, the physicality from the boys is there. Just a little bit of fine-tuning with the ball in hand, keep working hard on the defence, and we feel like we're in the right direction.
You mentioned that first half, I mean, and in particular the yellow card for Keenan after 15 seconds of the game. In terms of playing against an opposition who, you mentioned expectations, people think, it's going to be a big score, cricket score on this one. Did that sort of burst the bubble a bit on that one? Immediately you're certain, right, we've got to defend with 12 men and let's just get through this period of time. Conversely, their tails are up. I mean, you're playing against a side there that have got all the troubles up, but they are at home. I think that's a big factor. You see these scores blow out. Often they're the away team and they've had to travel, and they're not comfort of their own dressing room and things like that. Whereas these guys, they're at home, they want to impress their fans. They've suddenly got a man advantage after 15 seconds. You can see why their tails would have been up.
Yeah, 100%. And end of the day, like, they're going out there and they're trying their hardest, regardless of who they put out there. And it's always difficult to plan for those sort of teams. We played Salford in round 2. We had no idea what sort of a side they put out, and we planned for the best, and they put the best out. We did same again this week. We expected Ryan Brealey to be playing out there and Chris Hill to play and a few more. You just don't know sometimes in these predicaments who's going to turn out. So that can affect your planning a little bit. And then, as you say, to lose key like in the first 15 seconds, it's a tough one. It does throw you out a little bit. You lose a middle, it affects your shape with the ball. Certainly defensively as well. It means those other middles are going to have to work overtime for that 10-minute period. And usually that's like when you're accumulating most meters per minute anyway, first 10 minutes of a game, when you take most of your juice out of your tank. So it probably added a little bit more to that. And that affects you then with the ball again. So it all has that knock-on effect. And that's what I'm saying, like for us to scramble and work so hard to do that, not once but twice in the game. But yeah, we spoke a lot in the week really about like remaining present and our responses to situations. And we put some processes in place and things like that. And that it don't get any more challenging than that, does it? Like off the kickoff, you get a yellow card, right? How do we respond? How do we fix this? And I thought the lads, although there were a bit of chaos in there, managed to respond well and stay on task.
And what was it like at half time? Only 6-0 at that stage. I'm guessing we've not seen behind the game yet. It will come out tomorrow. But I'm guessing that Brad was pretty much trust the process, keep doing what you're doing, don't chase the scoreboard.
Yeah, very much so, yeah. There's probably two ways you can go there, isn't there? I think we came in at 6-0. And as I say, there might have been a bit of frustration in the moment, but that will probably like us externally. The lads actually felt really calm on the field. I think we'd played quite direct. We'd managed to put a lot of fatigue into the opposition by doing so. We'd had quite a lot of position and a lot of field position and territory as well. So we knew at some point we would get the upper hand and the ascendancy. It's just a matter of when. Like we got it probably straight after half time when Sammy kicked they kicked off and his rampaging carry, typical Sammy carry. Get a couple of offloads away and we ended up scoring early doors, didn't we? It came a bit sooner than we anticipated. But yeah, there's two ways you can approach that at half time. You can either go in and give them both barrels and try and get an emotional reaction, or you can stay consistent. And as you've said there, BA just said, look, we don't need to change anything we're doing. Tweak a few things here and there. This will help you, but let's just stay on task, stay present. And fortunately, as I say, we managed to come out after second half and put some points on early. And that just helped the boys relax a little bit and get the fluidity and a bit more flow to our game.
Yeah, how important was that try? Literally the first set of the second half, and what a great try! It was some great football. Came off a good initial carry, but then supporting each other with offloads and finished off brilliantly by McAfee's second try.
Yeah, no, it was class. It was what we'd spoke about. It's what we'd planned for. We said we wanted to be direct and play through rather than try and play around. And I felt like we did that a bit in the first half. Certainly when we got down on their goal line, we tried to play with too much width. Like our exit mentality all season's been great. Like we've got a big, powerful pack and some decent OBs who can carry the ball. Obviously, Hawley and Riley's working really hard, and having the addition of Lockie there as well, who can break tackles. So we know we've got some power and some punch about us. We just said, look, we need to be direct, play to our strengths. Halfbacks, just sit back a little bit, play behind that, set as a platform. If we get a quick one, step up, play what you see. Otherwise, just put the ball in the right areas with the boot. And that was the plan, but we didn't even get to the boot after that first set, as you say, because Lockie steps up, play 5 for a carry, typical Lockie fashion, bumps, ricochets, finds an offload. Sam has the wherewithal to move the ball to Jakey, and Jake's, I think, is probably just behind Jack Wellsby in terms of try assists in Super League this year. So he's finding the right pass or kick at the right time for us. And we managed to come up with the goods. It's a big one. I think it just calmed the lads down a little bit and helped us find some fluidity and get into the game. I think if we'd have got that, if Keenan don't get sin binned and you play devil's advocate and then we get that early in the first half, we might have seen a similar result in that first half as well. But, lads stuck to task anyway and they did what we're asked of them.
You mentioned there earlier on how they spooked in that first half with coming up. Is that one way to combat that with offloads in middle field, because they then have to stay honest and drop back? Because obviously if they're upfield, you're going to find space in behind them.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that. Like Salford do defend aggressively on edges, so they'll get up high from 3. We try and be super aggressive and take time and space and dictate a little bit. We've probably got a bit more patience about us, whereas they'll just go and be super aggressive. And it's easy to do that on your goal line. A lot of teams will do that on the goal line anyway. You want to get high up and take time and space on edges, but it does spook you with the ball. That's why you do it. Like you do it so you don't have to make a tackle. You turn teams back inside. One way to combat that is, like you say, you play shorter passes, you play leads, you punch yourself into those spaces, which you can sometimes leave if you're getting high. There's generally more one-on-one tackles. So try and look for those one-on-ones, create space, create quick play the balls, create offloads. You can get in behind them, and that is one way to nullify that. That were the messaging at halftime anyway, and the lads stuck to it, and I thought we came out second half and probably executed the plan a bit better.
You mentioned Riley Lum there. I thought he really showed what he's learned this year. Maybe not as some spectacular runs as we've seen in other games, but maturing into that role and doing all the basic things right on Thursday night.
Yeah, so Riley, obviously massive shoes to fill, quite literally, with Sieves dropping down. And we knew with Riley, like it's going to be a process for him. Like he's seeing things and seeing pictures every week that he's never seen before, at speeds that he's never had to deal with before. So it's only human that sometimes you're going to come up with a wrong read, or your position is not going to be quite right either side of the ball. But you can accept that as long as you're seeing like the effort, the endeavour to improve and learn. And we've seen that every week with Riley. Like every week he's faced with a situation where he's probably never been faced before. He's coming up with, maybe an error or the wrong read occasionally. But then the week after he's fixing it, and then he's fixing it again. So imagine how much better he's going to be in 6 games' time, 6 months' time. So his accelerated growth and learning is exponential compared to anybody else who's not been put in them situations. And sometimes you have to wear that a little bit with young players, but he's doing a great job.
Yeah, and we've gone well enough into this podcast now without giving the main man on the night a good rap. James McDonnell, 4 tries. Great all-round performance, both on defence as well as those 4 tries as well.
Yeah, Macca, I think he scored 5 tries last year, didn't he? He said, or 4 tries all season last season, and then he picks 4 off in a game. It can happen like that sometimes, the back row, can't it? And I think it's a reward for all the work that Macca puts in. Like obviously, like you don't see the day-to-day, and he's one of them who you guaranteed he's going to be 9, 10 out of 10 every single training session. Like the lads will try and avoid him, in the contact wrestle room because he's 100% on everything he does. And it's no surprise that then you get the just desserts, don't you? On game day, you get the rewards for the effort you put in. And it's great to see James doing that because defensively, he's been really solid for us all year. He started off, I think, a little bit slow. Probably the first couple of games, he'd be first to admit that, but then like he grew into it, and he's been playing 80 minutes every week. That is no mean feat, really. Super League level. He's picked up a few awards throughout the year defensively for his effort. He'll come up with 40 tackles, no misses. Like he'll have 95% win percentage and all that. It's not easy to do, certainly at the highest level. And then he's starting to add a few more strings to his bow now with the ball. And I think the more settled we become with our half-back combinations, and we lock it out back as well. So Macca's getting used to playing with Jakey now on that right edge, and Jake plays with a different tempo to what Crofty plays with, obviously. So the more familiarised they can become, I think the better you'll see those combinations, and Macca will just improve week on week.
Yeah, I think that was noticeable, particularly the first try where he supported that run of Jake's and put it on a plate for him.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Jake is, they say he's a very, very talented player, Jake, and he plays at such a slow tempo sometimes. Like he can almost like coerce the defence into coming out of system or doing things that they wouldn't ordinarily do. It's difficult to play against. I wouldn't like to defend against him as a back rower because he'll play slow, he'll play quick. He's got really good deception on the ball. Like he'll almost sort of stop dead and then start again, and it is difficult to defend against. And I think as a back rower, it's also difficult, for our attacking back rower to play off sometimes because you're trying to time your run off Jakey. And he's got that much variety and deception in his game. But I think Macca's is certainly finding that now, and we saw some of the rewards of it, as you say, at the weekend. Like he got one against Warrington, the sort of marginal forward pass, but then he got a very similar one this week where Jake's double pumped and put him through. Then Jakey's gone through the line with the offload early doors, like you say. So it's good to see that combination flourishing.
mention of Jake there's a good way to segue into our game on Good Friday against Huddersfield Giants, going up against his former teammates. I'm sure Jake will be up for a big one in that game.
Yeah, Jake's Jake. He loves he loves the confrontational side of the game. Like, he's quite antagonistic and he's quite cheeky in that sense. So I'm sure he'll mark this down on his calendar early doors, and he'll be looking forward to it. It's going to be it's another tough challenge. Like, they are, they are where they are, but the scrapping, the fighting, it's hard for us to probably prep against because you don't know what sort of a team that you're going to be facing, who's going to be in what positions, and they've had Gagai in the house and then fullback, and what middles are going to play where and what combinations are you going to expect. But you can either look at that or you can think, we'll just focus on ourselves here and bring it right back. We'll look at some of their traits, look at their identity. This is likely what they are going to do, but this is a week for us to probably focus in again on ourselves and what our strengths are, and keep leaning into our identity, our game model, and improving that. And we'll see how we measure up against them. But yeah, it's a bloody tough challenge. They're a good team.
And just one game over Easter now. Lads don't know how lucky they've got it. You, of course, back in your playing day, you'd have had 2 games over the Easter weekend.
Yeah. No, when you were in it, you did it, didn't you? You were in it, and I always, sort of back end of my career, there were always a bit of talk of them maybe changing it and things like that. But it was tough going, yeah. It's a long old season anyway. Certainly for the teams, like your teams, Bradford, Leeds, St Helens, as your Wigans, with high representative numbers as well. You'd have lads playing 40 odd games a year, and it was a tough old slog. And Easter didn't certainly help that. And I remember, like, at Bradford, we'd always have Leeds on that. It'd be Good Friday or Thursday, and then we'd go to Wakefield or Castleford on the Monday, or I think went to Catalans once, but it were always generally them derby games. And I think we played Leeds on a Friday night at Headingley. We might have turned them over. We had Wakey on the Monday at Wakefield. It were like 2 away games. Tough old carry on. I think we managed to beat them. I think we won both games, got 4 points out of Easter, which were mega. And then we went out for a couple of drinks in Wakefield that night. And I remember Steve Mack collared me after the game, and he's like, "Oh, you're a bit off today, Lang. It's a bit, a bit fatigued and weren't quite yourself." But that was just like, that was it. Like, you couldn't say, "Oh, well, I played a massive derby game against Leeds at Headingley on Friday 2 days before." You just had to kind of cop it and get on with it, because that was the expectation. But I'm glad it's a thing of the past now, because the game's that fast and hard. I couldn't imagine these lads, like we always say, because we train hard and we're physical in training, but you can't play we'd say you can't play 2 games a week. Your hardest day of the week's got to be game day. So, like, you were playing 3 in 7 days sometimes. It were crackers, wasn't it?
Yeah. Glad to see the back of that, and looking forward to it. We do miss those derby games that used to be highlight of the Easter weekend, but we'll set off Huddersfield. We had some cracking games against Huddersfield in recent times. 1-pointers, drop goals, draws, everything. It's this game's had everything in it, and I'm sure Jake will be leading the boys around the park on Friday evening here at AMT Headingley. It's going to be a special night. It's family day, so make sure you get down. There's loads going on around the stadium. Come down and enjoy with the kids and enjoy some great rugby league action as well. Just finally, last week, Callum Watkins returned to the club. Cal's been a couple of days. How's he settled in with the guys?
Yeah, settled in well. Obviously, I was in last Wednesday prior to the game, just to get a feel for the place. And it's like coming home for him, isn't it? Kirkstall's not really changed that much since last time he was here. Headingley's changed a fair bit, obviously, since he was here last. But yeah, I think a lot of the boys are familiar with Cal anyway. He's got a very relaxed, approachable demeanour about him. He's always had that as a person, so it's very easy for him just to slide back in, and it's like he's never been away, really. So that was cool. Obviously, the instruction was for him to just, get away from it and relax over the weekend. There was no need for him to go to the game and all the things surrounding that, which is understandable. But yeah, he's turned up today. He's full of beans, and he's trained with the boys this morning, and we've run through some of the systems and things like that with him. And yeah, he'll familiarise himself. He's a smart player. He's been around the game long enough. He'll slot straight back in to the system, and I'm sure he'll be eager to do what's asked of him. And he'll he brings a bit of leadership there as well, and just that experience to help some of our younger players out. But yeah, great addition for us. give us a massive boost going into like the next phase of the season. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can bring.
If you want to hear more from Callum, check out Box 2 in partnership with Best Western GB. Jamie Jones Buchanan sat down with Callum last week when he first arrived at the club. A fascinating chat, talks about his entire career, the trials and tribulations over at Salford more recently, but the things he's gone through during his career. It's a fascinating watch. So check that out now on our YouTube feed. Thanks for joining us, Langers. Looking forward to Friday and taking on Huddersfield Giants. Thanks for watching, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Just a head note ahead of next week. Next week's match review will be on Tuesday. It's Bank Holiday Monday, so enjoy your Easter weekend after the Good Friday clash, and we'll see you next Tuesday. But we will have the usual Q&A edition coming up on Thursday. So get your questions into info@therhinos.co.uk. and we'll put those questions to whoever needs to answer them here at the club. Don't forget to give us a review and a rating, and so you can stay in touch with the Rhinos, and we can continue to spread the word about Leeds Rhinos across all our podcast channels. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.